Hello? Can anyone around here speak basketball?
There it is.
It's the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.
We're going back to back. Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Freddie Rivas, and who, sir, are you?
I am the producer, Matt Duncan, on my first Zoom call for Confederacy of Dunks. How are you, Fred?
I am doing, okay. Kind of hanging in there.
Yeah.
Trying to absorb everything that's going on. How are you doing?
Doing the exact same thing. I'm trying to absorb. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to, learn for tomorrow. Keep things going, and not just, trying to check a box on one day and leave it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. First of all, for everyone who listens to this podcast, thank you so much for listening to this podcast in general. We appreciate you. And me and Matt kind of thought we'd talk a little bit about why we didn't do a podcast last week. And, ultimately we wanted to kind of give room for Black voices. And we decided that talking ball, just didn't really make sense last week. And, even though we continued throughout the coronavirus and the early pandemic days, this just felt like an opportunity for us to, as Matt said, listen and learn and kind of take that opportunity to step back. And even with this podcast this week, we've done our best to kind of, focus the material on what's happening, on the protests, on police violence, on corporate MBA, and kind of like how this movement may or may not be co-opted. And as people, I think we're hurting and we're frustrated and we're angry. As allies, we're working on ourselves, and we're going to continue to work on ourselves, and we're open to criticism. So if you're a listener of this podcast and you feel like you've ever heard any type of anti-Black sentiment or anything derogatory, we're open to changing, and we're open to learning, and we're excited to do just that. So I think I speak for me and Matt, and when I say that, like we're just not really into this idea of not adapting and growing, and not looking at our own inherent biases and racism as a systemic thing, and something we participate in and unfortunately enable. So I think with that said, I'll pass it over to Matt for a sec, but we're going to be promoting some kind of like some Black focused stuff instead of our own usual, Took and Patreon and that sort of things, and that sort of thing today. But Matt.
The first thing that I think would be great, if you're looking for a way to support the Black community, I like to look at things, and we're hearing so much in the States, and there's so many great causes going on there. For like Black Canadians, I think it's really important to, because the systemic racism really exists here. And, there's this narrative in Canada that like if you hear Doug Ford talk saying that, like, we don't have the same roots and stuff like that. And it's just so uneducated and wrong to say that. Like, the history's there. You can go back. It's in our face, and we need to be responsible here. And
100%.
that's where I really want to learn, because there's a lot of things that have happened that I didn't really understand. Like, I didn't know about Africville in Nova Scotia, and stuff like that. And like these are the things that us as Canadians, we need to learn about, because we're not just the cute little people saying sorry and
Yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
think, you
This
know, we're a diverse nation and stuff, but we've got a lot of work to do. So
That's right. Yeah, the whole angel complex
yeah.
thing, it doesn't help anybody.
So one fundraiser that I found that is kind of close to us in a personal way is called Umoja Robotics. And we're going to post the links for all this stuff in our post. So you can
Right.
just
Yep.
click on them. You don't have to search for them and it'll boot you right to the page. But Umoja Robotics I'll just read you a little bit of what they say on their
Yeah,
GoFundMe.
sure.
So uh, the African Canadian Christian Network is a charitable, not for profit organization founded in 2006 to improve life outcomes for Black youth and families in the Greater Toronto Area. We are dedicated to making a difference in the lives of young people by helping them achieve academic success, become leaders and role models, and make positive contributions as citizens of their communities. We do this especially for young people facing systemic barriers to success by partnering with government, corporations, community organizations, and individuals. Um, they offer advocacy and support for Black parents, provide leadership training and mentorship for youth, facilitate financial aid and scholarships for high achieving youth to attend independent schools, host coding classes, and prepare youth for careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, aka STEM, through robotics. So this is a really great cause. Help fund them so that they can keep offering this stuff for kids, and yeah, I just think
Cool.
like their goal is to, you know, they want to qualify for the Ontario Provincial Championship and the World Championships. So, you know, with that money, we can help fund them and send them on their way. And it
Yeah.
seems like a lot of people are getting on board. And yeah, I think it's a great cause.
Cool. Well, I'll jump to one of my favorite podcasts, which is actually the Baseline podcast. It's quite popular. But if there's anyone who listens to my podcast, and for some reason you don't listen to the Baseline podcast, it's a Black basketball podcast, and I think that's really important because the landscape for analysis and commentary for basketball is unfortunately, it's too male, and it's not Black enough at all. So yeah, the Baseline podcast, the Baseline NBA podcast is it's a fantastic podcast, and you should check it out 100%. Listen to it every week.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Shaw and Cal Lee. Yeah, it's a fantastic podcast, and it should be as popular as the Low Post and the Watch Pod and everything else. So that's my first little one. Matt, you got something else, right?
Yeah, I got something that I donated to last week, especially when the protests were really heating up, and I felt like the protesters, I really wanted to, if I couldn't support them in person, I wanted to be able to support them in another way. So I supported Black Lives Matter Toronto, and it's really easy to donate. You can go to blacklivesmatter.ca. They have the links there that you can easily do a PayPal, or you can even, if you just want to do a quick e-transfer, you can do that to donate at blacklivesmatter.ca and just make the password all Black Lives Matter. And that's it.
I love it. And I'll end with kind of a local podcast and a guest we've had on the show. But now's the time, and I think it's kind of like fun pointing folks towards like awesome Black things that they should support. And look no further than Rap's unpublished. He's been on the podcast, Dwayne Watson. He's the reason that I've been on NBA TV Canada in the first place. And he's an amazing basketball figure in the community, and his basketball analysis is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, make sure you check out Rap's unpublished. It's like Heel Augustine, Matt Tierney, and Dwayne Watson. I mean, again, if you're a Raptors fan, you should already be listening to this podcast. But if for some reason you don't know about it, like, they get everybody. Leo's on there.
He gets
Sam
to talk
Mitchell,
to everyone that we want to talk to.
That's right. Antonio Davis. Like, it's like legit a stacked pod.
It's great to have him on so we can hear what,
Yeah. He's kind when he's on the podcast, our podcast.
Yeah.
So put it that way.
Yep.
But yeah, I feel kind of I'm ready to get this going, and that the work's not over, and yeah, we'll be kind of come back next week with hopefully more cool Black businesses to share with you, and yeah, Matt, I feel like if you're ready, give me those beautiful words and just say the words okay.
Okay.
I'm going to bring on guest number 1 here. He's done the podcast a healthy amount of times. He's hilarious. He's a sketch comedian. He does stand-up. He does improv. He was in the Featured Players, which I'm in now, even though it's a pandemic, which is kind of weird. Anyways, give it up as loud as you can for Antony Hall.
Yeah. What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing, man? It's fun to do this on a Zoom call and see you.
I know. Yeah, you could see my confused face as I try to come up with something hot to say for all of the questions. I'm I'm doing all right, man. Yeah.
I was hoping to see like a Lonzo Ball, either like maybe like torn up. Wait. You love Lonzo Ball or you hate Lonzo Ball?
I love Lonzo Ball.
Okay,
unapologetically and like semi-ironically. I am excited today to be able to share my favorite new T-shirt, which is the Team Lithuania Other Dream Team Grateful Dead.
Oh my God, that's an incredible! I thought that was just like, honestly, I'm gonna be on. I'll be truthful with you. I thought that was just a weed smoking T-shirt. And I was like, cheers. He's getting high. It's the pandemic. We're good. But no, that is a I think Valanciunas smoking weed shirt. No, that's awesome, man. Like, that's a fierce.
It's a skeleton slamming a basketball down.
It's what we all want. Okay, let's bring on guest number 2. He's done this podcast a bunch of times as well. He's hilarious. He does all forms of comedy, sketch comedy, stand-up, improv. This guy knows basketball. He tore his Achilles once and is now like in fine form, which is inspiration to my older brother Miguel. Give it up as loud as you can at home for Yaw Attuah.
I do this every time that these songs are
Oh! See, I'm on the phone call, so I only saw you when you spoke. So that top hat was a big reveal.
Yeah, for me as well.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I like most people, I'm doing well. And my days ups, my days downs. I was gonna say about my theme song. I say this every time. Reminds me of summer. And then outside, the weather matches. The stars are aligning. The stars.
Yeah.
Align.
Yeah. This version would be you on a beach, but like in a nice, safe bubble on the beach, right? Like you're patrolling the beach, but like, you're in a dome of safety.
Yeah. People are not coming around me. They're just like, leave him alone. He looks like he's reading something very, very funny.
Yeah. This guy is reading hilarious sand poetry. Please leave him be. Guys, let's kind of jump into the podcast. You want to start talking some ball or what?
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, Maddie, I don't know what sting you got, but whatever you got, give it to me. It's both amazing and just hilariously awkward watching Matt and myself dance. But you know what though? It's good to know that we both do, right, Matt?
Yes. You have to dance.
Did you know that I
can?
dance?
Did I know that you danced right now?
No, like when we're recording this podcast, were you like, I bet you Freddie's dancing?
Oh, I don't doubt it. I mean, I've seen you in that competition that I lost to you in for the Dancing with Comedians or whatever. I
Right, yeah.
I know you've got the, makes me think of, like Ernest and Ernest Goes to Jail when he's electrocuted at the end. That's
Yeah, that is how I
the kind
dance.
of flow you've got.
That actually, I will take that compliment any day. Ernest escapes from prison. Ernest Saves Christmas. That guy was an incredible comedian, and I loved as a kid watching him get electrocuted and then blasting his way out of prison with his own electrical powers.
That character started in the commercials, kids. Just so you know.
Yeah. There you go, kids. If you really want to be a comedian, get into the commercials.
Ready? Can you center on the camera a little bit here? There we go.
So I'm trying to get in the mic here, but yeah.
Would that be like the equivalent of the A&W guy branching into like A&W guy escapes from a holiday?
Oh my God,
A&W guy escapes from prison. A&W guy escapes from a cruise ship.
Oh my God, the A&W guy is the perfect example. Like, he should totally get his own TV show where it's like, I don't know what he'd do. I don't know if he's like a full out like comedian like that, but I guess in this scenario he'd have to be.
A&W guy runs a summer camp.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Him or Flo from Progressive, like either one of them.
Flo from Progressive, everyone's just waiting for her debut.
Yeah.
Oh, Flo from she's gonna just like switch straight to being like in a Marvel movie. They're gonna be like, oh my God, Flo from Progressive is like the new Marvel character. But guys, let's kind of let's take this down a notch for a second. I guess get a little bit serious, or maybe not. We'll see where it goes. Antony, I'm gonna start with you and just kind of like check in with everything that's going on with the pandemic, with the protests, with the movement and the police violence, and the NBA being in the impending return to Disney World. How are you feeling, just in general about, like, let's focus kind of on the return of the NBA, but
Sure.
Obviously all of these things, all of these societal factors are gonna influence the experience. So I don't think we should, not talk about them.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I sit with the return of the NBA. I think as a sports fan, I'm excited that we will maybe get a conclusion to this season that's already been so crazy. But I think just as a human being, it's going to be tough to find joy in watching the NBA, especially with the current situation of the pandemic being in the world and this Black Lives Matter and the protests. Like, I think there is so much more going on in the world that's important versus basketball. Like, as much as I love the sport, I just want people to take the time to really just like check their privilege and know where they stand in the world when it comes to being anti-racist and also staying healthy and not taking this pandemic as a joke. Like, it's hard to find the balance of enjoying things when the world is at such a state, and I think I am struggling with that as well, just trying to be an effective ally and also just not taking up space. Like, I think even for me, I'm a non-Black person of color, and through my personal like Asian communities, I've just seen so many different ripples of opinions, whether that be supporting the movement or being sort of influenced by a lot of anti-Black and horrible historical things that Asian people have put into the world when it comes to anti-Black racism. And it's like it's kind of hard for me to vocalize properly, but I'm really taking the time to pay attention to all of the resources and all of the voices that are louder than ever to learn and be better. And like I was telling you yesterday, Freddie, I had a really long chat with my mom on the phone yesterday, and I was really surprised at how empathetic and how understanding she was of the current protests and the climate. And it was something that I didn't expect. She's very traditional Chinese, and um, I think for a lot of traditional Chinese families and Chinese Canadian people, you know that your households have very strong racist opinions about a lot of people that are not Chinese. And I was just really surprised and honestly, like, I was happy for her to be able to vocalize her feelings and her understandings about everything, um, in
Yeah.
terms of systemic racism and the protests going on right now. And that gave me like a glimmer of hope that we can maybe with time continue to unpack these things.
Yeah, really, really well said. And I think, like, I'll kind of add on to the glimmer of hope, the idea of people wanting to unpack these things, or feeling like potentially there could be a sea change. But obviously there's just so much work to be done that you don't want, like, hope or like optimism that's misplaced to get in the way of like necessary progress.
Right.
And I really relate to what you're saying too, as far as finding the balance of something you might be excited for, but in this current climate, it's really hard to kind of navigate, like, is it necessary? Is it correct? Is it ethically wrong? Yeah, so I think, like, it's just all of us trying to process something that's bigger than all of us, and kind of constantly changing. So yeah, anyways, and I think we're all going to evolve in our feelings too. So I'll also just say thanks for sharing, because I think we're at a time where it can be a bit scary to share. Like, there's so much going on for everyone that it's hard to kind of to think about it in an honest way. Okay, so Yao, how would you say you're feeling with the return of the NBA and kind of everything that's surrounding it? It's obviously extremely loaded, but what state would you say you're in right now when you think about the return of the NBA?
There are some things that are heavy. It is hard to be like overjoyed that sports are coming back. I mean, the sports fan in me is really happy the NBA is coming back. Logically, of all the athletics to come back, if I had to pick one, I'm glad it is basketball.
Yeah.
Because Adam Silver does give the players a platform and doesn't punish them for speaking out. And they're just, because they're back and all eyes will be on the NBA, they know it and they can speak their mind and without fear of repercussion or not having a job or something along those lines. So, of all the sports to come back, I'm happy it's basketball. I think with everything that's going on, everyone's like, oh, I need some sort of distraction. And I don't think basketball is really a distraction, just because of the issues that really affect those guys closely, especially with even Steven Jackson just being friends with George Floyd.
Yeah.
And be able to speak out. So in a way, I'm like, the basketball fan in me is like, I'm of all the sports that come back, I'm glad it's basketball. If all the leagues that come back, I'm glad it's the NBA. And I know that things like when some people are like, I just want a distraction, the NBA is not the type to step and just shut up and dribble. So in that respect, I'm of all, like, so that's my takeaway from it. It's just like everything else is pretty heavy, like dealing with COVID still, and the questions I get inundated with every day and have to answer, and the things that I have to see online. It's kind of like those things people know I go through, but if I was talking strictly about basketball, I'm like, yeah, because if this was baseball, it'd be all about like shutting things up and keeping quiet. And if it was hockey, well, we wouldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
And NFL's already proven that they'd rather mute people. I mean, they're slowly coming around now. But of everything else, I'm like, NBA's always been that league that, like, there's no mask on players. People know players intimately. They do press conferences. And with, like, no fans around, people can support, they can honestly say what they need to say, which I think for them and fans of basketball, it'll make them feel better.
I think that's like it's a really, really good point regarding a distraction. And I actually love this idea and totally agree with you that, you know, it's almost like the NBA is a potential setup for folks who think like they might get a shut up and dribble scenario. And I think that the pain is just too raw for that right now. And like, I mean, exactly, Steven Jackson is friends with George Floyd. Like, you can't get a closer connection than that. You know, Malcolm Brogdon and Jaylen Brown, you know, just to name a few, Steph Curry, were at the protests. And I'm sure there's many more. And yeah, I totally agree where I think that the NBA, you know, potentially is this league that can kind of like seize this moment, you know, and back to Antony's thing, I feel myself wanting and hoping for the balance. And that, you know, it scares me a little bit because I think that I shouldn't necessarily want balance because one's not equal to the other, right? Like, like watching my favorite sport on TV is not equal to what's happening right now and has been happening forever. So I think that's kind of this weird balance. But I'm rambling a little bit, but I do agree with you that I feel like it represents an opportunity, and I can't imagine, especially at this time, players not being outspoken. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
But with the heaviness aside, and because of what's going on right now, we'll get back to heaviness. But you guys want to talk some Raptors?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
You're in the jersey, baby.
You were in the jersey, baby. Kyle Lowry. Here we go. Maddie, if you got that Raptor sting, give it to me.
Oh, another sting.
Oh, sorry. If you don't, that's fine. Okay.
Can somebody get Nurse a fisherman, please?
Not
And now
a
you-
COVID sting.
See, but it does help that I can see you not smiling, because I've been assuming when you play that, you're smiling like really hard.
I just like do the Joker, like
Yeah. Okay, guys, let's.
it's allergy season. I just think it's important to get that fisherman's friend sting in.
Yeah. Thanks so much for I'm really happy you prioritized the fisherman friend sting and the coughing sounds. No, it's good. It's good. People like that. So yeah, I'll jump to. I'll stick with you, Yaw. But
Word.
I'm kind of just gonna jump to a full Raptors fan perspective here.
Okay.
Do you think the Raptors can maintain their momentum? We were second in the East, third best record in the NBA, and we were absolutely on a roll. Never fully healthy. What do you think? Do you think this team has momentum? Do you think they'll keep kind of they'll be better or worse or what?
I think we have a few things kind of working in our favor. Like, our team is mentally used to not playing in an ideal scenario. So they're used to playing with injuries and under weird circumstances and crossing the border and they just won a championship. So this kind of format favors experienced teams over newer teams, and it favors teams that already have a built-in chemistry or a lasting chemistry over newly formed teams.
Totally, and continuity too, because those bonds, they matter over this time, I would say.
it's also like we have the best coach in the NBA, and I think coaching more this season than other seasons is going to play a factor. The type of coach that can adjust on the fly and see what their team is offering and be able to build a solution. So like it's one of those things where like I can understand why Portland voted to only have 20 teams show up instead of 22, because now the Spurs, who are half game back of Portland with Greg Popovich, like even though LaMarcus Aldridge is out, like they have a chance to like make some noise because they just have that mind. And they
Hey man, Spurs like basically have still not missed the playoffs. So if I'm a betting man, like, do I want to bet against the Spurs not making the playoffs? Like, I feel like if there's any team that could pull it off with like, I don't know, it would be fun. And I'm with you on like the continuity and kind of like veteran savvy of this team, because like we're not old. And yeah, we just won a championship, and all these guys have blossomed into their roles. So like I feel like we're in quite a good position to kind of continue our momentum and be better. Like I don't imagine guys like OG and Pascal and Fred weren't putting in work, you know?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I think Vegas or Fox Bets, one of the two, have the Raptors as the 5th best odds to win the title. That's like money that you'd want to put down. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Honestly, it might have to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to you, Anthony. Do you think we can? Do you think we had a bunch of momentum heading into the playoffs? With the last like whatever 13 or 14 games. Do you think we benefit from this situation?
I hate to say it, but it's been so long since I've watched a Raptors game that I cannot remember how good we were playing.
I don't know what a basketball looks like.
I couldn't tell you if I think we're primed exactly to carry on our momentum into the playoffs, but I do remember some of our players being injured. Like Fred, I think was injured as well as
his back was hurting all year.
Yeah.
Norm got injured a bunch. Obviously, Gasol's
Marc
hammy.
Gasol, yeah. So in that instance, and looking at that information, I think we are primed to get the band back together and start hitting those like first like whatever 8 like seed determining games with a lot of energy, and I think there is a good chance that we'll have success, but I don't know what the other teams are going to look like as well. Like if everybody gets all their players back and everybody's been training in this downtime, like this could be very exciting, or we might just be watching like a bunch of really out of shape dudes like the big three and just like hucking balls around in Disney World. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, me too. Hey, did you see the like, I'm careful with judging players' bodies, but I think this is, somewhat complimentary. But did you see the skinny Marc?
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
What do you guys like? Oh, we can get into fat shaming if you guys want to go there, and I think it's not good. And Marc actually has a history of people judging his weight, but I will say it also was like a very glowing, refreshing photo where it looks like Marc's ready to win and then chug some rosé. Correct?
I think that skinny Marc photo was like, oh, please be like. The first thing I thought is like, this is too good to be true.
Yeah,
it looks like a guy who wants to dunk.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. Yeah. Let's not get carried away here.
If Marc is ready, if Marc is in prime shape, I love our odds. I just
seriously, like if Marc's in, sorry, I don't want to take your point. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like to know if you're playing with both Marc and Serge coming off the bench. And, like, you just kind of had, like, that 1-2 punch that, like, gets big in the fourth quarter if you need it. The one advantage that apparently Milwaukee had over us was size, and that's, like, kind of being taken away. the guy who stops Joel Embiid, who I'm not really worried about anyway, because those guys had an atrocious road record and essentially playing all road games. Yeah, I like the veteran presence of someone who's ready to play.
Yeah,
I know
I'm
it looks good. That confidence, that swagger you take.
totally. Yeah. Anthony, I'm going to jump to you in a sec just to see if you have any skinny Marc thoughts. But I had a thought where a lot of people were talking last year about like measuring defense and like how difficult it is, and people would bring up Marc Gasol a lot and just how much he talks on the court. And I remember reading that article last year during the playoffs that Marc and Serge are speaking Spanish, and Serge and Pascal are speaking French. So I'm really excited to see, if we can't hear a lot, like there's no fan noise, if we're going to hear a bunch of different languages when the Raptors are on defense. And we could have an all French lineup with Boucher, Pascal, and Serge. So it's like, if you're an offensive team, like that's difficult if you have these guys just like switching between languages all the time. So yeah, anyways, that just a thought I had, but Anthony, any skinny Marc thoughts?
Yeah, I think I have a couple. I'm obviously a very big fan of Marc Gasol. I think he was incredibly important to our championship run last year. So with him being skinny, my questions are like, how is he going to handle some of the more physical bigs in the paint? Because I don't know that like speed and dynamic movement has ever been a huge part of Marc Gasol's game. I feel like he has been a guy who has really primarily relied on positioning and being sort of the right place at the right time and using intelligence to influence his defense or influence the offense that is attacking. So with kind of this new maybe injection of youth into his body, I'm questioning like how it's going to translate to his already existing skill set. Like, is Joel Embiid gonna just like push him around? Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, is Giannis gonna be able to like just like push him and just like get him out of the paint? And obviously, like, there's fouls to be called and such like things to consider. But like, is a smaller Marc going to be less good at the getting down and dirty and getting those shot blocks? Like, that's a question that I have in my mind. But to
imagine if Marc just is like, no, I'm point now. I take up the ball. I take up the ball. You guys saw the picture? Sorry, I'm the point guard. That's what's going on.
But imagine if him being smaller or more nimble makes like his like 3-point process faster. Like maybe if he can get through his progression faster, like that is dangerous.
So you mean like you don't want like the like time to stop when he gets the ball at the 3-point line?
It's like a full 3 seconds for him to get the ball, control the ball, hoist it up, flick his wrists, and then the ball comes out. It's like it's time. You can literally see the seconds on the clock go like before he gets his shot off. And I don't know, maybe this kind of sleek redesigned Marc Gasol could shoot faster. I don't know if that's like, that seems like such a trivial thing to think about, but I'm like, if he could get it off faster, like he becomes such a dangerous perimeter threat.
We're at the point in the NBA, and that's what's so tough between scrutinizing players' behaviors or body or whatever, is like it is such incremental differences. Like Pascal being like, I can shoot at the top of the break, the three, is like absolutely game changing for our franchise. Yeah. And Marc being like, oh, I can guard Embiid and Giannis and Jokic, is like, oh, okay, well that really helped us win a championship.
But think about him coming off of a screen and then like going to the 3-point line. Like if he can move faster, like he'll be open and he'll have the option to take that shot, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over to you because you actually brought this up earlier, but and the Raptors kind of being like a unique team and being used to playing in different atmospheres, but I guess correct me if I'm wrong. I just read this today, but we're one of 2 teams that are being invited to Orlando that is actually not going to practice in our city. So I'm not sure if we're going to Orlando right away to practice and then start with the rest of the NBA. But do you think that's a disadvantage to us, or is that actually kind of like it's kind of good for the Raptors?
I think it's. I have no real game-changing thoughts about the whole thing. It is.
I know, yeah.
It's like most of the guys on our team went home, the U.S., went to their U.S. homes. I think just gathering down there, just making sure you're ready, is just kind of getting them in the mindset of this is it. I feel like it's a very business move. We don't need to put this home. Let's go down there. We know what the mission is. I just kind of trust that as opposed to everyone come back to Toronto. Just let's go on the lakeshore. Let's go to the practice facility just to go down to Orlando and do the same thing. I think they're just going to climatize and make sure they're ready and make sure it feels as much home to them as it can be.
I like that. First of all, yeah, you're 100% right, and that's why I threw to you for this because we are such a take care of business team. It was a game 3 or 4, forget which one it was, but we beat the Warriors in Oakland and just walked off the court. There was no celebration. It was yeah, we expected to beat you and we did. And I think that team definitely has this flavor. Kyle Lowry definitely has that flavor. But I was going to say, I like that for you coming home is let's go to the lakeshore. I like how you got to hit up the lakeshore. It's a big part of it.
Yeah. I run by that facility all the time. And I think to myself, Drake sponsors this.
Yeah. Oh my God. I always think that too. Every time I go by it, I'm like, wait, oh yeah, this is Drake's building. That's hilarious. You're I wonder what's going on in there. Well, all I can see is that owl. Cheers. Anthony, what, how are you feeling? Are you kind of yeah, this is perfect. This is the Raptors are already locked in, or are you I don't know?
I think it's smart to not have everybody come back to Toronto and then go to Orlando because of the self-isolation and quarantine rules that they would have to respect if they came back to Canada. That's they're the 14 days of isolation before you can join your team or to go back to work. I think if you're going to the States, you will bypass that, and if everybody is healthy, they can get down to business, as you guys were saying, right quick. And with the current Raptors team, I think once they are ready to be dialed in and to get practicing, this will end up being an advantage, I think. And practice and being in your city is nice. Obviously trying to feel some semblance of normalcy is important for, I think, mental health, but you're not going to achieve normalcy in this time because there's no chance of feeling normal or practicing as you would have last year in the time that we're currently experiencing with the pandemic. So it is a smart move to get everybody down to where the season is going to take place. And I think they're going to be able to excel once everybody gets down there and is healthy and is shooting those shots.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's talk about that season a little bit, shall we? It's I don't know. We can talk forever, but I only got a couple questions. Matt, I don't know. Do you have any more NBA stings? If you got an NBA sting, would you give it to me?
This is Adam Silver.
Good stuff.
It's probably just on me, eh? Well, we should try this. We haven't done this in a Zoom yet.
When I say Bobby, you say Webster, Bobby.
Webster! Webster!
Oh my God. We're all so lonely that Matt got max participation. Finally.
I think
It's
I
true,
always
that was-
participate. I'm a big fan of the stings.
I love the stings.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just sit back and listen though.
Yeah, sometimes you got to take the sting in, you know? I mean, I feel like Tantric Sting says that a lot, but no, like, you know, as far as Matt's audio wizardry, sometimes you just got to enjoy it. I'm gonna go to you, Anthony, on this one. So, and again, I don't think it's like an exact right answer to this, but I feel like I want to explore it because it's important. And Yaw spoke to this a little bit as well. You know, actually, I'll start with what I'm thinking, so I don't put you on the spot. The question I'm curious about is how do we think the NBA is going to respond to and handle future and current protest? And for me, like, I guess what I want rather is, you know, there's a lot of kind of like military nights and police nights and just kind of like casual embracing of a relationship that I think we're all realizing shouldn't have inherent trust. Or, I mean, some people are just realizing that now. And I think there's kind of like a lot of casual promotion of yeah, kind of like police culture and violence. And I think, you know, you could spend more of that time promoting Black culture. Maybe instead of, you know, military or police night, you have a community members night. And, you know, I think it's good for us to think about these things, and we're fans. So ultimately we're going to help push, you know, the agenda of the NBA, and like what we want is, you know, we're consumers, right? So, yeah, the anthems come up in a couple podcasts I've listened to. I'd be really happy if the anthem was not a part of the NBA anymore, or they made it in a way that players, you know, didn't have to be out there and stand, or if they want to be out there and kneel, then that's okay. And there isn't, I guess what I really hope for in regards to protests is that Adam Silver and the NBA, they don't try and put it in a box. They don't say, we're okay with you protesting, but here's exactly how we want you to do it. And here's, you know, like, here's the Nike headband you have to wear while you're doing it, right? Like we saw that last year in the NBA with do-rags. You know, it looked awesome. I loved it. And then, you know, the NBA was like, no one can wear this. And then, you know, a couple of weeks later, it's like, you can wear it if it's Nike. And so I think those types of things, like, I'd like to see players wear their own brands or whatever, you know what I mean? I think that sort of thing is important, and players should be able to express themselves freely. So sorry, I really kind of went off with my own question, but I just wanted to take the pressure off of you a little bit. Because I don't know how much you've been thinking about protests specifically in the NBA.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't want like the NBA to sort of co-opt the movement and say like, look how supportive we are. Look how much more amazing we are than everybody else, that we allow these people to protest. It's a right. It's like,
exactly, yeah.
It shouldn't just be because like my boss said I can do it, so let's go. Like, I think it is so important for the players to be able to do so, because the league and the sport itself is benefiting off of their bodies. Like, we are seeing a league and people and organizations benefit off of Black bodies, and we need to be able to let them have voices. And like, they are people. Like, let people fight for what they believe in and let them show it on their platform, because this is not just a stage for the sport, it's a stage for all of these incredibly talented individuals. And in a lot of cases in the previous NBA, we've seen protests not go over so well, and players allegedly being blackballed and not being able to fulfill their talents and ultimately what they think they were capable of. And I think
right.
Like the Mahmoud Abdul Rauf is somebody who like comes to mind, and I recently watched like a documentary that features an interview with him, and how he protested the anthem, and the media really spun it in a negative way, and he never really recovered from it. And I really hope that this new NBA with the commissioner and all of these really strong voices, I hope we're able to see the protests and to not have them be like co-opted by these big brands and
Yeah.
just in the name of being like these sort of performative allies. Like, I don't want these big corporations to take credit for any of the opinions and voices and actions that our players are going to show. And and I know, I'm hopeful that we'll get a chance to really see our players stand up and fight for their rights. Yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, it's a big stage to do so. So
Yeah.
I think I relate to you in that, like, you know, having some of that optimism where it's like, this is a big opportunity, and I think the silence will be big as well, right? So I mean, if it's done in a way where players are made to be silent or that sort of thing, where are you at, Yaw? Like, in regards to you know, the way the NBA is handling the current climate, and then also kind of what you're hoping for with future protests.
Where the NBA is at right now is always kind of a mystery to me, because they do have a rule that you have to stand for the anthem, which I'm not always a big fan of, because like the mandate to like policy and patriotism doesn't feel like patriotism. So like players can't, like, that came in after Muhammad Abdul-Rauf protested the anthem and made a bunch of people upset, and he was a great point guard. I followed him since he was Chris Jackson at Missouri. He was great. So it still is, actually. He played in the big 3-on-3 league.
How old is he?
Like 51, I think.
Okay.
Just destroyed people.
Well, yeah, I didn't know his story well until I read it. I knew that he was like unfairly pushed out of the league, but I didn't know the exact ties to the anthem. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I always get a little iffy. Like, part of me was like me personally would love to see, because I know all the players just kind of want to do like the united stand by everyone doing the knee. But at the end of the day, I'm like, whatever the players want to do, give them the freedom to do it. Because it shouldn't be like, as much as I was like, oh, this would be perfect, this would send the right message, and then like everyone takes a knee, and then when they talk about the press conference, you go, you know why we kneeled, and then they end all the questions about kneeling at that point, and then they answer questions about the game for the rest. That would be ideal, in my head personally. But whatever the players decide should be the answer, which shows two things. One, you're listening to what the players and what the players want.
Yes,
it's not
which is key, I think.
I think that's the big thing. It's just a lot of times, especially now, a lot of this protest is about how, like, if we go back to the NFL, how Kaepernick wasn't listened to. It was he said why he was protesting, and he made it clear, and then people co-opted the message and made it for something else. I feel like, and then everyone had like a mandate of how things should be handled. I would love just for Adam Silver to be like we asked the players what they wanted to do. They've made a decision. We stand by it. And then whatever the players did, the NBA just kind of like said that's what the players decided, and the players answered the question really curt and swiftly, like, you know why. This is our protest. This is to talk about like police brutality and voices being heard, and that's all they really have to say about it. Because I want all the newspapers to just like literally be like, the NBA protested this way. It was about this, like 2 clear sentences.
That's a great point too, because narratively, like the co-opting is, it's happened, right? Historically, every movement at some point kind of gets co-opted and like watered down to, not create the effective change that people were hoping for, and it's definitely not the fault of the protesters. So, yeah, sorry, Adam, not to cut you off, but just kind of like agreeing with your point.
Good timing. It was a good time. It was like that was the point. I want to know the players made a decision, and the decision was supported, and then that's what we got. We get a very clear and simple explanation because we know the NBA players can do that. LeBron James has been very clear about like what he stands for, what he's doing. I feel like NBA players are very articulate that way because they're in front of the media the most. It ends the discussion. There's no real debate. Like, you can't debate what people have said, and then that debate keeps getting squashed. It was like, you heard what they said, we move on. And then the players do what they feel like is appropriate, and we understand that they have the freedom to do so. So that's what I'd like to say.
Yeah, like the NBA kind of like supporting the players' message in words and not letting that message be diluted. And the NBA has the power to do that because they're like such a, it's such a massive corporation that it's like they can make sure the word gets out the way they want it to, and they can make sure that players like genuinely feel supported. In the end, there's not that many, right? It's like, I don't know how many are getting invited to Orlando, but the NBA is 450 players. So the NBA is a $1 billion organization. They should be able to support their players' opinions. And even if some of those opinions may differ as well, right? So yeah. I think that's also okay.
I think the other thing they really had, like from a PR perspective, they have everyone's ear right now. There's no NFL. There's no Major League Baseball. Like they're talking about MLS going down there, but that still won't be for a bit.
Mm-hmm. There's
no hockey, but they didn't watch hockey anyway. I always take shots at hockey.
Yeah, hey, you're taking a couple of hockey shots today. You know what? I'm into it. Matt is probably hurting inside, but it's okay.
Fire away.
But like they have the attention of the world. Like they have
they do.
It's so like NASCAR came out with something today, and then a bunch of people were like, "Oh, and NASCAR will be in the news for like maybe a week."
Yeah.
So they have the attention of the world. They have like a freedom, like financially. They're playing with house money right now on that back end, and they know people are going to be watching regardless. So why not kind of shape the message you want? Be the ideal instead of like try to cater to, business partners that are like, well, we'll just invest in something else. So
yeah, that's a great point too, because it's like, you don't want so much blood and sweat and pain and death, really calling it what it is, to be kind of like put into a place where it's like, oh, okay, our solution to this is like, we're going to have the Sprite Center. And that's like, you don't want this movement to be co-opted or compartmentalized in any regard, I don't think. Okay, let's move on to this whole conversation. I'm going to stick with you, Yaw, about the asterisk. The asterisk championship. So like, I'm sure you guys have heard this a bunch already. I've heard a bunch of funny things, and people are reflecting on LeBron's first championship, which was in a lockout season. The Spurs not LeBron's. Tim Duncan. I messed that up. I think. Wait, was LeBron's first finals run?
No.
You know what? I've messed up. I've butchered my whole question to begin with. But
keep going. We got you, baby.
Yeah, you got me. What I'm trying to say is it only an asterisk if your team doesn't win? Like if the Raptors win, no one would ever convince me that this was an asterisk season. Like no one would say that our championship doesn't mean.
Here is the thing.
Like I'd be like, we have 2 rings. What do you want?
This is how I feel about asterisks in professional sports. It's baseball that gave the asterisk a negative connotation. They just want to be like, asterisk, the steroid era, blah, 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 is negative. Where an asterisk just kind of denotes that the season had differing circumstances. The Spurs won in a lockout shortened season.
Mm-hmm.
No one, I don't know anybody, even like, especially like over the past couple of weeks when people were talking about like the greatest of all time and putting a list together and talking about Tim Duncan having 5 rings. They don't go Tim Duncan has five rings, but one has an asterisk, or Tim Duncan really has 4.5 rings. No, Tim Duncan
exactly.
An asterisk just denotes that the season circumstances are different. So like, is there an asterisk on the season? Yeah, sure. But is that ring worth less? No. If anything,
Exactly.
it's harder. It's a harder ring to win.
Yeah,
You had
totally.
you couldn't cruise to get into the playoffs. You had to be playing hard all year, which goes to show in the future, people will be like, you can't rest or like rev up for later in the season. You have to be playing to win because you never know when the season is going to stop. You can't hope to sneak into the playoffs after All-Star break. You have to be like always on your game. Let's reward people that have been playing hard all year. But if the Raptors win, does it mean less? No. If LeBron wins, I don't think so. But if LeBron wins, does it mean less to his legacy? No. If anything, I feel like any team that goes out, wins under these dire circumstances, it was a harder championship to win. Like the only team that could probably claim it was an easier championship to win, and we'd have to do all sorts of conspiracy theories, is if Orlando, who's already in the 8th seed right now, somehow wins because every game is Orlando. Then we can be like, okay, let's look into all the cheating here. We all know they can't ball.
And if Orlando did win, I think we could all have a good laugh. Like we could definitely be like, this is crazy. This is insane that Orlando won. Like, can you imagine if it's like the finals MVP is DJ Augustine? Like, oh my God, final. Yeah.
Mickey Mouse bought the championship.
Yeah, seriously. What do you think about the asterisk conversation, Anthony?
I don't agree with it. I think like what Yaw said like makes perfect sense to me, where it's like an asterisk is just saying that something was different about this season. Like you're playing in the championship or you're playing in the playoffs, and like what sport are you playing? Basketball. Everybody is playing basketball. The rules are the same. It is basketball. So like how could you possibly be like, oh, it's not fair? If anything, like it's more fair because everybody is now rested up and got a chance to heal up from their injuries, and you're getting players back. And some teams, the ones that have been invited, like they probably weren't going to be in the playoffs anyway, and now they have a chance to be in a play-in for like the last seed in their given conferences. Sure. So it's like, if anything, this is just a special version of the NBA championships we're seeing this year, and that's not in a negative way. It's like it's just under incredibly dire circumstances that we're playing out this championship, and it's gonna be a fight, like for real. I think the like last couple of rounds of the playoffs and the conference championships it's gonna be very high octane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally think so. And I also feel like it's going to be – people are going to get into it. And I think before something starts, it's always like fun to critique, the setup of it, but, or what the stakes may or may not be. But I do think that once it gets rolling, people will be invested regardless. But yeah, before we get quickish questions, and because I want to continue to not like shy away from any type of difficult conversation, but I don't really think this is even that hard. My last question is what ideas anyone has to kind of like for the NBA to make more of an effort to just portray Black lives in a positive manner. So something that can be done to just increase Black positivity. And I'll start again, so I don't like put pressure on you guys.
No
but one thing I've thought a lot about is, and I remember hearing this a couple years ago when Dwayne Casey was first on the Low Post, is the conversation around coaches and how white coaches kind of get this like assumption of being like these clipboard specialists, these thinker guys. And Black coaches seem to get this label of a player's coach and like relatable. And I think it's just a way of dismissing Black intelligence. And I think it's casual and it's really kind of like subversive and pretty damaging in the end. And I think those types of casual inferences are things I notice as a fan, and they bother me. So I think that's something I'd like to see a lot more of. And I guess that's not exactly like positive, but just I think, you know, you could talk about Doc Rivers at a timeout play more. You could, you know, focus on kind of like more than just like, you know, Nate McMillan's like scouting or that sort of thing. I feel like there's a way that a lot of coaches and kind of like, and black basketball minds get pigeonholed. Yeah, I'll go. I don't know, whoever wants to go next, Antony or Yaw.
Oh, I will say a couple things about coaches because this always bugs me, especially about coaching, especially when like someone like Luke Walton, who doesn't have a winning season, is somehow plucked from the Lakers to coach the Kings and has done a considerably worse job with a team that was on the rise, as opposed to someone like Marc Jackson, who hasn't coached again. And like, there's other things, factors involved, but like someone who has a winning record, it's harder for him to get interviews than a guy who objectively has not produced the same results. So like,
yeah, what can you say? Like that's the facts.
So there's a couple things. There's one, the perception thing is a big thing for me. Just talking about like scheming in X's of those. I'll say like Nick Nurse is the best coach in the league because he is the best coach in the league. But like I think like someone like Alvin Gentry does a fantastic job because like look at like
exactly
how the Pelicans play and how
he's
like,
influenced the NBA as well. He's a part of the whole 7 seconds or less move, you know, like gold to everything.
Yeah, he literally like took a team that lost a top, arguably a top 5 or top 10 player, however you rank him, whatever's in your heart, whatever. He's not in my top 5. Player in the league, and like got a bunch of like rookies, like second year, third year players who don't know how to win, and has them on the cusp of the playoffs. Like that's X's and O's, and know how to play, like getting the best out of Brandon Ingram when like Luke Walton couldn't. Like, you know what I mean? It's stuff like that, and that's the one thing I'll agree with you. And the other thing is like the pipeline. There are, when we talk about like new coaches and people who deserve a shot, and I know Becky Hammond's name gets thrown out there because she deserves a shot, but like after that, like what assistant coaches do we know? Like who's coming up, who's on the pipeline, who's the next up? And I think that's not just the NBA, that's other sports leagues, it's the college ranks, it's like where are these assistants being groomed? And like I can go on this topic for like days, but like where are like the black coaches and GMs and execs that are in line to even have a shot at those positions? So
that's right.
I'd like to see not just part of the conversation and the chances being a little bit more even, and like the pipeline being built so people can't be like, well, people are just getting these interviews, they're not ready. But like there are plenty of great video guys who like get forced out and have to do ESPN jobs because they're not getting the same shots at assistant positions.
And I think, you know, they're not ready is also code we're starting to identify, right? Kind of like you hear that a lot. Like, you know, I mean, we hear it in comedy. Like as comedians, I hear it all the time. So-and-so's not ready. Blank's not ready. Inferring that, I don't know what exactly, right? But it's kind of like part of this like racial structure and this like systematic kind of like barriers that hold people back. But Anthony, we kind of went down the coaching path, but is there any kind of instances you think of where it's like, you know, this should be like, I would like to see this for more black positivity?
I think I would like to like challenge the organizations as a whole, and I want to see like different people in roles in the pipeline discussion you guys were having, especially with the upper management side of teams. Like, where are these executives coming from, and is there programs or sort of like training opportunities in place for people who maybe not necessarily have that like clear like blue blood connection to a team or to the sport, to be able to rise to the ranks and get these coveted positions of influence within teams and within the league. I really would like to see organizations and the league have initiatives to get more Black people, more people of color, and just honestly people who love the sport to be able to learn and grow within an organization so that they are prepared, I guess, for this, for when that opportunity comes knocking, and then somebody can't just be like, oh, they're not ready. It's like so that argument is null and void, like that we have something in place for people to learn and for people to be ready. Like, I think that is so important.
Yeah. And I think like you touch on management, which is in upper management, which is really, really a fantastic point and a great example, because, you know, I think, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I had it was just a bit of an icky feeling when, was it the conference finals? No, I think it was that actual, and it might've been the conference finals, but it might've also been no, sorry. I'm confused.
NBA finals version.
No, I'm thinking of the ring ceremony. And what I'm thinking is that, I don't know all their names, but, you know, that the head of Bell, the head of Rogers, they all got their rings first. And the players kind of had to go through them. And I just didn't really like the optics. Like, I guess part of me is like, I get that you are the money behind this, but like I'm not tuning in to watch you get a ring before Kyle. Like, so that those types of like small optic things where it's like, I'm sure they did a lot of hard work and they deserve this championship as well, but it's like, they're not the product. And as a fan, I don't care that they're the owner. That to me isn't like some type of ultimate, like, oh, well, you are the owner, so I like you more than Kyle Lowry. It's like, no, I don't like you more than Kyle Lowry. I'm not a season seat holder because I'm a fan of the person who owns Bell or Rogers, or is ahead of like the sports or MLSE. And like, you know, I haven't been too critical of Larry Tenenbaum, just because you could see the way the players hugged him was a little bit different than the way they shook the Bell guy's hand and hugged the Rogers guy. But yeah, so I think I'm not sure whose point I was John. Oh yeah, just Anthony's upper management, and it visibility matters in that regard too. And like, I mean, I'll say as a Raptor fan, it's really cool to have Masai. It's something I'm proud of. I think it's something players love.
But look how undeniable he had to be. Like, it wasn't like an easy climb for him. He had to be like,
exactly.
He went from like a player scout, an international player scout, to like an assistant, to a GM, to build a Nuggets team and like basically swindle the Knicks, which like in hindsight isn't that difficult to do. And then he went to Toronto.
But still, he swindled them good.
He did it. He did it at a time where most people were like, can you get it? I can't believe you got away with this. And now people are like, oh, you can get away with this. But there's something to be said about being the first. And then getting a vice president role where people like are now like seeking him out, and then having Bobby Webster working underneath him. So he's an exception to a rule that I really need shattered and rewritten.
Yeah, he's held to such a high standard that he had to be the best, and by far the best, to be able to be even considered for all of these other positions now. And I want to see that changed as well. And I would really like to see so many more people of color and new voices within very many different departments, like even like managing like social media, like in-venue entertainment. Like I'm so sick of seeing just like college grabs or like Ivy League people just like plucked into these like roles and just like shoved in there because they went to school for marketing and that's it. Like, I want to see people who are passionate and have the skills and really just care. And like a lot of times, like, this probably is me trailing off on a bigger, more philosophical argument about these jobs and writers and stuff like that. But I think like to have the framework in place to give people who don't necessarily have that opportunity right off the bat to be able to seize it is incredibly important.
Yeah, totally. Well, guys, we've made it to the the silly, lighthearted part of the podcast. Quickish questions. Do you want to do some? You want to do some quickish questions, Matt? I don't know. We've never done a Zoom quickish question, so maybe I don't know. Is it gonna work?
I hope so.
Whole thing.
We're- Okay, baby. I can hear it. Da 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 da. Okay. You both know how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do Yaw, Anthony, Matt. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
My game face is on.
Yeah, this is coming for you. Which one player is most likely to opt out of the playoffs because they are worried about getting coronavirus?
One player opting out. Oh, jeez. Who would do it? This one's tough because I can't think of any player that matters that would.
Can't phone a friend, yeah.
One player that would opt out due to coronavirus. Kyrie. I know he's
Okay.
like out, but like he would sit out. He would.
He'd
Right
be like,
now-
the earth is flat. I don't trust this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony. Who will the replacement players be?
Okay. It's going to be Keanu Reeves, Orlando Jones, John Favreau.
I just want to see how many people you can name from that movie.
I think that might be Reese Ifans, who plays the kicker. I think that's it.
Wow.
Okay, best line that I quote all the time is from that movie, and it's shouted at Keanu when he's in the parking lot. It goes like this: "You're not even a has-been. You're a never was." And it really hurts his feelings. It's a
Yeah.
good burn. Okay, Matt.
Quick burn, y'all.
Yes.
A hypothetical question. If you had the option of signing Kawhi again
Mhm.
or Giannis to a 2-year deal in 2021 to the Raptors, who do you pick? Assuming both would stay for 2 years. So Giannis or Kawhi?
I think I gotta look to the future and say Giannis. I want to go Giannis.
Whoa.
Yaw.
You're
When the NBA season resumes, blank percentage of the players will not be standing for national anthems.
well, as of right now, the safest answer is all of them are going to be standing because that's what's in the rules. They'll just be wearing the "I Can't Breathe" shirts or something of that nature. So all of them are going to be standing until I hear otherwise. If they lax the rule, then I can like give you a more honest answer. But
Okay, I like
the
it.
rule says, and I want to be right. Quickest question.
Yeah. I know. I like how
These things.
I like how you're playing this like the Price is Right pretty hard. You're like, listen, I got about $1.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last question, Anthony. What do you think the NBA will do about crowd noise? Yeah.
I think they're going to not do anything about the crowd noise initially, but then it's going to be so weird, and then they're going to try to do what the Bundesliga is doing, and they're going to pipe in crowd noise and have a person like adjust those levels, because I think it'll drive people crazy.
Right. I really think Matt should be the person who adjusts the levels. I
Yeah,
really hope that Matt is allowed to make all of the sound effects in-house.
all the stings.
I would.
It would
love
greatly
that job.
improve the NBA. Like Matt's like, if it's like a buzzer beater, I feel like it'd be like a 45-second sting, and people go, "Did we win the game?"
Listen, above all else, those games need to be on a 5-minute delay because no one's watching the language. I think that's the big thing. Everyone, the games have to be on a 5-minute delay so you could bleep out the curse words. Cause
Yeah,
Oh yeah. You're
they're
gonna
going to be
hear the-
loud
Yeah.
I didn't
too.
think of that. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna hear all the players.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great. Yeah, and like I guess we'll hear some weird stuff like Boardman gets paid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder who's gonna. Here's one last quickish question. Matt, pick a Raptor And tell me one thing that they say on the court that we're all gonna learn. Like they say it all the time. Like
They say it all
remember,
the time that we're gonna hear.
there was a rumor that Danny Green, or not a rumor, my brother Miguel was sat courtside, and Danny Green, when he's opening, he goes, "Caw."
I think it's gonna be Marc Gasol, and he's gonna say, "So thirsty."
Oh, that's good. But like when he's looking at the ball, like he's
Yeah.
thirsty to win. Oh, that's good. That's very good, and that's very sexy. Thank you, Matt. Guys, this was a really, really great podcast. Thank you so much for both joining. We let it all kind of hang out, and yeah, I love you both. And yeah, obviously it's a weird time to promote, but people still have stuff going on. Yaw, what's up, man? What are you doing? Anything? Do you know? What's your social media?
Just follow me at Yaw Experience on social media. I just have been posting lately. It's been getting engagement.
Yeah, man.
I'm a little outspoken. I wouldn't classify myself as outspoken before. Then I had nothing else to do but Twitter.
Well, hell yeah. I like an outspoken Yaw. Antony, you know, same. You know, it's a weird time, but if you got anything going on, that's okay.
I don't think I'm going to promote myself at all this podcast. I think it is very important right now to pay attention to all of the posts and the information on how to be an effective ally coming from all of the members of the Black community, whether that be African American or the Black Canadian community. We need to hear and empathize and start working on being better individuals and to be anti-racist.
Hell yeah, I love it.
Well said.
Well, yeah, that's it for the pod. Thank you so much for everyone listening. You know, stay compassionate, take care of yourself, listen to everyone in your life, and like Antony said, you know, it's okay to take things in and be a better ally. And yeah, thanks so much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next week.